Good evening. Welcome to the QCIS channel. On this channel, you get a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. My name is Leon Jones, and tonight I'm going to talk about random sampling of asphalt. Now, random sampling is where we take a random number and we figure out where we're going to take a sample per tonnage of asphalt. Now, every DOT uses random numbers. Now, there's another way to do it as well. I like to use stations. Now, why do I like using stations? This is very simple. When I start off at zero, and we're dealing with lots and sublots, it's one thing you need to notice when we deal with asphalt. Now, base and intermediate in some places is known as binder. You have 5,000 ton lots, and each lot is divided up into 1,000 ton sublots. Now, from my experience, base, binder slash intermediate is a lot thicker. Therefore, it requires more tonnage, where you get surface. Surface is generally 1.5 or 2 inches. Now, some numbers that you need to understand are implicated by a yield. Some call it a lay rate. And we're basically dealing with the thickness or the depth. Now, there are ways you can get the lay rate, usually 110 pounds per square yards. That is your lay rate. That is what we normally use. Now, if I'm going to put down 2 inches, then I'm going to have 220. Now, how did I get 220? Multiplied 110 times 2. Now, going back to utilizing random sampling. The way I like to do it is by stations. But in essence, I am using a random area to pick my sample, but I'm doing it by stations. Now, here's how I do it. If I'm doing surface requires a 3,000 ton lot with 600 ton sublots. I like to do my testing right in the middle. Why? Because it's safe. If I do it at 300 tons, and it's not going to exactly be at 300, but I just use 300 as a random number. Sometimes I may test it at 280. Sometimes I may test it at 320. But I need to have enough tonnage to get out of the first sublot into the second sublot. So when I go ahead and do it by stations, let's say I start off at 0 plus 0, 0. I'm going to do a little calculation for you. So if I start off at 0 plus 0, 0, and I'm going to lay down 2 inches of surface, what I'm going to do, you must understand that 2,000 tons, to correction, 2,000 pounds equals a ton. So how am I going to get the location of that station? Well, I'm going to take 300 and I'm going to multiply it by 2,000. Why am I multiplying it by 2,000? Well, again, 2,000 pounds equals 1 ton. So when I multiply everything out, I get roughly 600,000 pounds. What I'm looking for, a correction, 600,000 tons. Now, well, actually, 600,000 pounds per square yard. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert that. I'm going to divide by my lay rate, which is 220. Now, what have I done? I've actually gotten rid of my pounds, because it's generally pounds per square yard. So I got rid of my pounds, because it's the ton, the pounds per square yards. So right now I'm stuck with 27.27. Now I'm in square feet or in square yards. I'm in square yards. To convert to square feet, I'll multiply by 9. Remember, it's 9 square feet to 1 square yard. Now I come up with 24,545 square feet. Now suppose I have 12-foot lanes. Generally, most of your roads are 12-foot lanes. I'm going to divide by 12, and I come up with a number. And that number is 2045. The 2045 is going to be the length that I'm going to go to the next station. And that's where I'm going to take my sample. So if I start off at 0 plus 0, 0, where am I going to take my first sample? I'm going to take my first sample at 20 plus 45. That's for 300 tons. Now, if I wanted 600 tons, where am I going to take my sample? I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to multiply it by 600 times 2,000. I come up with 1,200,000 tons, and I'm going to divide it by my lay rate, and I'm doing surface now, which is 9.5 or 12.5 millimeters. Well, 9.5 is generally 9.5 millimeters of HMA is generally 1.5 inches of thickness, or it's at 165. So we're doing 2 inches, which is at 220. So after calculating everything, I come up with 1,200,000 tons, and now I want to multiply it by my lay rate of 220 pounds per square yard. And I've eliminated pounds, and I've gotten square yards. Now I have to convert that square yards again to square feet, so I'm going to multiply it by 9, and I come up with 4,909. I come up with again. To get to the next station after that, if I want 600 tons, I'll take 600 tons, I'll multiply it by 2,000. I come up with 1,200,000 pounds. But I want to get the square yards. So I'm going to divide by 220, which I'm going to eliminate pounds, and I'm going to just go to square yards. So I'm at 5454, or let's round it up to 5455 square yards. So I'm going to multiply it by 9 to get my square feet. So now I'm at 49,091 square feet. Now, just to get my length, I got 12-foot lanes. I divide by 12. So I'm going to go 4,091 feet. So if I want to start from 0 and do 600 tons, my station is going to be at 40 plus 91. Now that's how you do it with the station method. Now there's another method, and I'm going to show you right now. as I share my screen. This is called random sampling. Now, every DOT does it. This is from my state of Indiana. I used to work for NDOT, and you can find this online if you're unsure of what I'm talking about. It gives you the scope, and it talks about the procedure. And what it's used to do is determine a random quantity, a random unit, and a random location for basically sampling construction materials, basically asphalt. You can do this also with PCCP, that's concrete. Now, what's random numbers? Well, it tells you it consists of a list of numbers in blocks which may be used for a random selection process. Now, the numbers are generated by software, and the software basically utilizes statistics. Now, I'm going to show you what they look like because a lot of people don't know what they look like, and I'm going to give you the procedure right now. So, here's how to do it. You got number of samples, you have 4. You pick a random number. It's 0.698. So you're going to take your random sample and multiply it by 0.698, and it's going to tell you how many samples. So anytime you have a point, there's no such thing as 2.7.9 till you want to round it up to the next whole sample. If it's 2.4, you round down to 2. But what you have to do, you want to identify the number of units from which a random unit is required, and you want to, of course, label the units. Now, what we do when we get a sample, we have R numbers. Your R numbers are known as your remitter numbers. Now, they also go by your district. Now, basically, ours start with 23. I'm just going to use this 2315, 2350, and then the last 4 digits are your test number and your CLN. Now, I'll get to what a CLN is in another video. But your CLN is your contract line number. That's what you use to pay the contract. It's like an item number. Now at PennDOT, we actually use the item description, which the first 3 digits are always the spec. Now, let's move on. All right. Now here in Indiana, they love to use the random numbers. And here's an example. All right, your sublot size is 600 tons. So basically, and something else you need to find out too, and this is very important, it can also help you. Generally, trucks, they average 20 tons. Now, why is that significant? It's very significant because you need to find the length of each sample, because that can also, or each truck. So basically a 20-ton truck that's putting down asphalt at 220 pounds per square yard is going to run you roughly 136 feet. It's very significant because, again, 20 is an average, because some trucks, basically I've seen them come in at 19.8 tons, some at 21.5. So I like to use 20. It's an easy number. Now, here, this sample, and this is called a random quantity. It's obtained from the truck containing a random quantity. Example, sublot size. They use 380 tons of HMA. The random number, 0.871, which comes off that chart. So the random quantity is going to be 380 times 0.871, and that's going to be 331 ton. Now, it comes from a truck containing ton number 331. Now, where do I get the ton number? You get it from the ticket. That's where you get everything from, the ticket. This is why it's very important to check the tickets when the trucks are coming in and out of the site. Pavement is a very fast moving operation. Now, again, you can find random length by, you can find random location by length. You can find it by area. Again, I like using station. And now we deal with plate samples. Plate samples. This is where you utilize your random number. And of course, your cores, you have your X and Y. Now, your X and Y basically tell you where you're going to pull your core samples. You do not pull cores from shoulders, or you don't pull samples from shoulders. Generally, your shoulder has a different mix. Now, I know a job that I'm doing now, they've been pulling samples from shoulders. I don't like doing that. I like staying where most of the load is going to go, and that's in the driving lanes. Now, going down, these are basically your procedures. Again, you can find this on any DOT's website. I'm choosing NDOT since I work on NDOT jobs. Now, basically, this tells you, it's a diagram, how the plate samples are arranged. All right. Now, here's where the fun starts. Example 1. A 25 millimeter base mixture is being placed at 250 pounds per square yard. What is 250 pounds per square yard? That's what we call your lay rate or your yield for width of 12 feet. The truck contains 20 tons of mixture. I like using 20. They're using 20 in this example. The station of the paver when the truck begins unloading is at 105 plus 00. Now let's gather the information. We have a sublot size, which is 25 millimeter base. Sublot size is 1,000 ton. So we pick a random number, 0.613. What do we do with that random number? We multiply it by your sublot size, and that's where your first sample via tonnage is going to be taken. Now, I'm going to do mine different. So do what? So I know what station am I going to take that sample. It's very important that you find your location. So I'm going to take that 613 and multiply it by 2,000, and I'm going to get 1,226,000. I'm going to take that and divide it by 250. What do I get? That's my square yards now. I want to convert it to square feet, so I'll multiply it by 9. Now, the width is 12 feet. So the length is 3678. So I'm going to take 3678 and I'm going to add it to 105 plus 00. I am going to take that first sample at station 141 plus 78. Let me move on and talk to you about something else. Remember I told you about the length of load? Well, they do it a different way. They take the load weight, which is 20 tons, and then they take the average planned quantity, which is 250 by 12, multiply it by 18,000 to get 120 feet. Now, You can do that. Here's how I do it, and I'll get the same answer. I'm going to take 20. 20 times 2,000, and the number divided by 250. 20 times 2,000 divided by 250. I get close to the same number. I get 160. So it's going to be a little fluctuating with the numbers. But again, you have your random numbers, 0.428, 0.417, and it give you the longitudinal distance and the random location, and of course your transverse distance. Again, these are all your samples up there. And you can also find your cores. And I'm just going to, and I do a lot of asphalt. And I will get more. In fact, I will make sure I do some actual numbers so you can see it. So basically, to end this, all I'm showing you is how the random numbers work. And here's what they look like. It's the random number table. It's where they all come from. It's your random numbers. I will leave this in the comments section. But again, what you've learned today is some basics of random sampling. Now, I've given you two ways to do it, by station and by tonnage. Very important that you understand lots and sublots when you're doing asphalt. It's also important that all your tests pass, or if they don't pass, then you got to take appeal course. The contractor gets paid for all the tests that pass. But basically, what you learn in this session is random sampling. I've used, again, two methods, the method of stationing and the method of picking out random numbers. And that concludes this topic on random sampling. If you like what I just presented, please comment and share and subscribe. And if you're looking for some social and political content and news, you can check out my main channel, the 411 Talk Zone Radio Show on YouTube. Now, if you can't find the 411 Talk Zone Radio Show or the QCIS channel on YouTube, you can find both of those channels on my Twitter page. Now, for the QCIS channel, since it is an educational channel, I take it one step further. Also find the QCIS channel on my LinkedIn page. And once again, thank you for viewing this content on random sampling right here on the QCIS channel. On this channel, you get a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. I hope you all have a wonderful and gracious evening.